Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today I am going to show you how to level, torte, fill, and decorate a cake. The list of items that you will need for today's project is in the description below. The first thing that I have to show you is a pre-made cake. I have baked this and let it cool completely. And of course, since Valentine's Day is right around the corner, I did it in the shape of a heart and I did it strawberry flavor so that it was pink and kind of fit the theme. I also have a raspberry filling, a cake board, and then a couple spatulas. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I have found work well for me. This is a cake leveler tool, and so what this does is it fits flush on a surface and you can slide this right through your cake. It's got a very thin little string that helps keep everything level throughout your cake. So this is wonderful. You can buy this at your local craft stores. The second way, you can do it by hand with a bread knife. It's serrated on one end, and this way it doesn't come out exactly level, but if you don't have anything else, this works just fine. The method that I'm going to use today is our cake leveler tool. The very first thing that I want to do on my cake board is put a little bit of icing on the bottom. And what this does is it keeps your cake in place so that whenever you're transporting or bringing it from your kitchen to your dining table, that it doesn't slide around. And so I'm just going to take my spatula and kind of smooth it out and make it a larger surface there. And I just have this on plastic wrap from where I baked it overnight and let it cool. And I like to keep this in my hand and bring my cake board to it and then flip it. That way you don't have to worry about you dropping the cake or it breaking, whatnot. It works a whole lot better. So now that our cake is secure on our board, now we're ready to level. On the sides of each leg, there are tick marks. That's an easy way for you to keep this level. The first thing, I'm going to level out the top, because normally when you bake, there ends up being like a hump over the top. So I just want to get my wire level with the bottom of that hump. So you just kind of play it by ear, like a 4. That should do it. That's actually perfect. So I like to bring it towards me. That helps keep it pretty level. So you just kind of wiggle it back and forth, bringing it towards you. And I have me a little plate setting aside for all my scraps. So you just lift it right off and set it aside. Now that our cake is leveled, now I'm going to cut it once again, and this way I've got a place to put our filling. So the easiest way for me to tell you to be able to lift it off is use a really large spatula like this one and your hands, so this kind of helps it, or a regular kitchen spatula. You can use that, or there's this really cool little tool. It's called a cake lifter, and the name is pretty self-explanatory. So this just slides right where you've made your incision in your cake. So I'm just gonna lift this off, put it in my plate. All right, and easy as that. Now you're ready to fill your cake. What I have is just plain white icing in a piping bag. I do not have a coupler. I just cut the end off because this is gonna be inside the cake, you're never gonna see it. So what you do with this is you go around the outer edge of the cake. So it's gonna kind of create a wall. It keeps your filling on the inside and it doesn't seep out to your outside icing. So you just trace the outside edges. And that's all you really need. And what I have here is raspberry filling. These little buddies, they work wonderful as well, and these are just snack puddings. And normally one of these will get you a filling on about an 8-inch cake. I am gonna take my filling and I'm just gonna scoop just a little bit on the inside. And you just start working with your wrist and you're just gonna wave the motion. So now that our cake is filled, that looks good just like it is. Now we're ready to put our top layer back on. So I'm gonna take our cake leveler and I'm gonna put this right over the top and flip over my plate. And that way it's exactly like I need it. So I'm gonna get it really close and I'm gonna use my hand and set it right over the top. Oh, it's breaking a little bit, and that's okay. Just kind of squeeze it and slide it right back where you need it. And we can fix this with icing. See, that's the beauty of cake decorating, is because you can patch a whole bunch of stuff up with cake icing. So now we have our top layer on our cake, and as you can see, I kind of cracked the corner just a little bit, but no worries. I'm going to show you how to cover that up, because more than likely this will happen to you, and that's okay. It happens. It's the beauty of it. You can just cover it all up. Made myself a batch of buttercream icing. I just want the base of my cake to be white. I'm not going to color this part. I'm going to color the border, so I'm going to show you that in just a second. I am using a very large spatula, 6-8 inches long. I like to use that because it covers more area at one time. I'm just gonna start out in the middle of the cake, and you just start slowly going all around the cake. Now sometimes the tricky part when you're using white icing on any type of cake, sometimes you get crumbs that come through your buttercream. Sometimes I do 2 coats, especially if I'm doing like a chocolate cake, because you will get those chocolate pieces that come through and it gets on your white icing, which doesn't look very appealing. The buttercream that I use is a little bit thicker than what you purchase in the store in the can. It's not a whipped cream icing. So I'm being really careful as I'm going over the spot where I cracked it, because it's already fragile. So I'm just gonna go right over it very slowly. Just kind of twirl it around and just connect. So on the edges of my cake, I just take a very small amount and I keep it about 1.5 inches on my spatula, about 1.5 inches, because that's about how tall my cake is. So whenever I go starting on the edges, it's easy just to cover that surface, because that's exactly the amount that needs to be covered. Now sometimes when you're doing a shaped cake, it can get quite tricky if you have corners or different shapes to go around, but you just go slow, and sometimes using that pointed spatula that I had earlier, sometimes that helps get into little cracks and crevices. Now that I'm at the end, and some of it has had time to just air dry, what I like to do is I go back over and smooth it out just by going just over and lightly scraping. So the next thing that I'm going to do is get ready for my border. And so I'm going to set my cake aside. And I have went ahead and I've prepared me a couple icing bags that I'm going to use, and I'm going to do a colored border. So I've got 2 icing bags that are exactly the same, number 32 tip, and I'm going to do pink and red for Valentine's Day. I've got a couple little bowls that I'm going to use to color my icing. I'm just going to drop a couple drops of color in my icing, and I like to use AmeriColor. It's a paste gel. I find that this brand holds its color the best. Some brands you'll find the more rich colors like black and red and even purple, they will not hold their color if you make it overnight. It just won't hold. All you do once your gel is in there, you just start mixing to make sure that you don't have any white spots or a whole bunch of that gel color. You want to make sure that it's mixed really well. And the really nice thing about this is if you want it to be darker, you just add more. If you want it lighter, add more white icing. Red and pink. And now I'm ready to put it in my bag. If you need a refresher on how to fill a piping bag, I have the link to the video in the description below. So now that our bags are done and our cake is on our turntable, now we're ready to ice. I like to start if I have a point or some place that doesn't really matter where you start or finish. I always start there, start and end there. Whenever I'm doing a border on a square cake, that makes it really easy, but I always start it at the back right corner. You can start wherever you like on a round cake. I always start in the back so that whenever I finish off my border, you don't see where I join the two. So I'm just gonna grab my color and I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna start with pink, and this takes a minute to get a good pattern going, but it looks really nice whenever this is all done. Okay, so now I am done with my bottom border, and as you can see, I've alternated the colors all the way around. You can do this to the top, which I am going to demonstrate today. So here we go. And there we have it. That finishes our top border, so it is the same on the top and the bottom. And now we're ready for the writing part. I'm gonna write a really simple message on this cake. Here we go. I'm going to write in red. I'm gonna move my hair. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna center it on the cake. I have changed my pink tip to a number 3 as well, and I'm just gonna go back and I'm just gonna add a few little dots around the message, and that way it just adds a little something to it. I'm gonna add a few little hearts to the cake, and this helps cover up any of the crumbs that may have came through. And now we have a finished Valentine cake with a cute little message. So today we learned how to level a cake, torte a cake, fill a cake, and decorate a cake. So I hope that you've had so much fun making this cake or a cake similar. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Please come back soon for more SugarVol cake videos.